What is going on, Badger fans? I am here with Ryan. It has been a minute. The season's almost here, and this is just a free-form show. So if you guys want to call in, give us your optimism level, your confidence level, which players you're tracking. We're going to talk about it. Take any of your comments. I got some questions for Ryan. We're almost there. Let's talk about it. Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Badger fans? Ryan Herrings, Ryan Eilers. This is Locked On Badgers. He's over at Athlon. He does, obviously, Badger Notes. This is just a free-form Friday show. So if you want to dial in, if you want to call into the show, give us your confidence level, the players that you're tracking. Please do that. This is just a community show. Make sure you have your camera on, because I got to make sure you got clothes on before you join the show. I got to make sure you don't have anything crazy in the background. You're not taking a hostage somewhere. Like, turn the camera on. Other than that, join the show. Let's talk about it. We're just going to kick it off. I already got Evan in the group back here. Let's bring Evan on. What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm just sitting out on my patio.
I love it, man. What are you drinking? Well, where are you calling from?
I'm in Topeka, Kansas.
Nice, man.
Yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin in Menominee.
Well, let's start here. Confidence level on the season.
I'm going to go 8 wins, or 8 out of 10. So, yeah.
What players are you keen on?
I think Tretch is going to have a huge year, like you guys have been saying. I think he's going to explode this season. And I'm excited to see what he can do.
Dude, I love it, man. Let me ask you this, and then I'm going to kick over to Ryan, see if he has any other thoughts on here. Is there anything that you're really worried about? What's stressing you out as a Badger fan right now?
Well, the recent news on the defensive line is stressing me out a little bit. I think we can get away with, teams like against Purdue, but against like Alabama, Oregon, that worries me.
Ryan, thoughts on the defensive line, man? Because that's a good point that Evan's bringing up.
Yeah, I'm obviously concerned. You lose JTJ, you're gonna be in trouble. There's no way to split it. I know. I was watching the other day when you had Nick Osen on here, and we were talking about how, like, when you go to like your different personnel packages, like you might not notice it as much. But for that one, I'm not as concerned, and here's kind of a crazy reason why. I don't know that you had the greatest chance on the trenches anyway against Alabama or Oregon to get home on, like, Dylan Gabriel and that quick passing offense, on Vanilla Jeff Sims at Penn State. Like, those guys are going to be hard to bring down either way. I think part of it's just going to be you're going to have to do it by committee. And I don't know that we're one player aware in the defense to really impact those games. It's going to have to be all scheme either way. Like, you're going to have to scheme that one up because you don't have dudes to beat their dudes yet.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with you on Bama. Bama's going to be a bear. And Curtis Holland, who comes on the show a lot, made a really good point, I thought, with Bama. He said, listen, Bama might just bully us, but Bama's a 1-1. Like, there's not another team on the roster that can probably do that. The big concern for me with JTJ is you've lost a little bit of your margin. You have very little margin for error there to begin with, and now you've lost kind of that cushion. And we all know it's probably not going to be the last defense lineman that gets dinged up. Hopefully nobody else major, but that's the big concern, right? You're kind of out of margin at this point.
Yeah, but if you look at it from a percentage standpoint, what would you think would be the realistic percentage? Like, if you had to do like the RHI, the Ryan Herrings Index, instead of the ESPN FPI, what percentage were you given Wisconsin with JTJ, and what percentage were you given with it lost? Because I don't think it drops that much. Because in my opinion, like, I'm thinking like they probably had like a 25% chance at winning. Losing JTJ, I mean, 20%. Like, I don't think you're going from 25 to, this is 100. Why even show up? But Ryan, Evan, what do you guys think?
Yeah, Evan, let's start with you there. Do you think it's just a depth thing, or do you think he's an impact player and we don't have the replacement there?
I think it's a depth thing. I just holding that line. I feel a lot more confident with our linebackers this year. Like I was on Rajib's show where I made a comment about our linebackers last year, like they were running in quicksand. They were so slow. This year, I think, is going to be a whole different aspect. I think they're going to make a lot more plays. I think that could affect them a little bit. So But I'm also very confident in our secondary this year. I think that could also be huge and maybe cover up for some of the lack of pass rush maybe that we'll get from the actual line. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, great stuff, Evan. Man, I appreciate you. I'm gonna get someone else on, but
Yep.
dude, thank you for dialing in. I liked it before. That's where I'm at too.
It was fun. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, brother. All right, Jackson, we'll get you next, and then Brian. I just want to answer your quick question there, Ryan, because I think it's a good point. And we had a couple people in the comment asking kind of who's on the show. That's my fault for not adding labels here. So Ryan Eilers, Badger Notes, Athlon, awesome guy. He's been on the show before. Really good dude. And then everyone else is just the community show. So anyone else that wants to dial in, if you want to dial in, please do it. Again, have the camera on, please, so we know who you are and what's in the background.
Yeah, I was say if Caleb calls in again and he doesn't have a shirt on and he's rocking the camera, we'll probably we'll have to get shut down.
No, dude, we'll probably let that dude on. You can almost get away with no shirt here, but that's about the extent of it. To your point, though, I agree with you. I don't think the loss of JTJ individually moves the needle tremendously, and that's with all due respect to James Thompson Jr. What I think it does is it sets off, not to steal Kedrick's line here, but a cascading series of failures where if you were to lose another guy, right? And I think you're really starting to get on that precipice where you remember maybe 6-7 years ago, Maryland lost a starting quarterback, and then they lost their second string guy. And then you can only sustain so many injuries is my point. And that's not a spot where you don't want too many of them. So I agree with the overall point. It's just the depth of it that concerns me.
100%.
All right, let's bring Jackson in. Jackson, what's going on, my friend? Let's go. What's your confidence level? We're going to start there.
How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing great, man. You?
I'm doing pretty good. What is the momentum looking like going into 2024? And did the ReliaQuest Bowl set off like a huge momentum shift in a good way?
That's a great question. I'm going to give that to Ryan in a sec, but I want to point out, where are you calling from? Your background is awesome. I mean, you're like in a podcast studio with mini helmets behind you.
Yeah, well, I'm calling from Alabama.
Dude,
I'm 15 minutes away from the state border of Tennessee where I'm at.
Yeah, I never could have guessed you're from the South with your accent. I was thinking Alaska or North Dakota or something.
It's all right. It's going to be fun watching Alabama, Wisconsin on big noon kickoff. I'll tell you that. It's going to be awesome. And I will say, though, I can't wait to see Wisconsin go to Tuscaloosa in 2025 for the first time ever in series history. You know, the last time it was at Madison was, I believe, in 1928 in the Wallace Wade era. That was
wow. Ryan, where did you sit in that stadium?
Good seats naturally. Like not a lot of competition. I
wonder if our great grandparents were even born during that time.
I mean, that's going into the Wayback Machine. Let's talk about the bowl game. Obviously, it started to click against LSU. The offense looked better. Now, the problem is some of those pieces are gone, and LSU was an atrocious offense. But you saw flashes from Tretch. You saw a Renfro-led offensive line that actually looked like it could correctly snap the ball. Ryan, do you think there's carryover from that bowl game at all?
Yes, because it's more of an exhibition for the young guys. Like I think those live reps were beneficial to the young guys from a lot of your depth pieces. So it's like I'm fairly certain like Jonas got a good run. What is his buddy's name? I'm just completely blanking out. Braylon, safety, 20. Why am I blanking?
Oh, you talking about Braden Moore?
Braden Moore.
Yep,
you got Braden Moore and Tretch, and you got some of these younger guys that got a lot of run in that game that I think are going to be great because I don't know if Moore's necessarily going to be your starting safety when you got Hunter and Pizak and Moy still back there, but it's like having that depth like helps you sustain those injuries. So I think even guys like McDonald on the line and Barton, like they got extended run in that game against SEC players. Was the offense that LSU was playing, like it didn't have Jaden Daniels. It had Malik Neighbors for a record, and then he was done. At the end of the day, half full stadium, you're not getting a lot of juice. But it's still SEC talent. I mean, that is still a team, 3 years removed from a national title. Historically, the SEC is one of the best recruiting people ever. Our best recruiting conferences. I mean, between the McDonald's bags and all the ways that Tennessee decided they were going to do it. Yeah, I mean, I think they had that momentum that they can carry forward can be good. I'm not a huge believer in momentum. I don't think Luke Fickell is either. I kind of think you create your own juice. But I think what you can take away from it is the live reps they got against good competition. It's not like they were going against it, FCS superstars like South Dakota. Like they were actually going against people that are going to play in the men's league.
Yeah, and I know that there's going to be naysayers that are like, oh, well, LSU didn't have Jaden Daniels, so of course you're going to have like a great day and all that. But I think Wisconsin going against Alabama, and this comes from an Alabama fan, I think Wisconsin will definitely bring their A game against the Alabama Chris, because people need to remember, this is not Paul Chryst, Wisconsin, where Wisconsin was falling apart from the top 5 to going unranked, and then the winning streak against Minnesota. No. Things are going back to the good old days, to where Barry Alvarez had them, to where Brett Bielema had them. I could see where Wisconsin, I mean, yes, I've got them at 8-4, but I would not be surprised if they go 9-3 or 10-2. But I could see that third year being a humongous year for the Wisconsin Badgers.
Start to build their momentum. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I never get a chance to talk to anybody from Alabama. So how about, since we're talking about confidence level, we're going to ad-lib here, Ryan.
Please do it. This is the show for it.
Talking about confidence level, as an Alabama fan and resident, what is your confidence level playing in Madison at 11? Are your boys going to be ready? Are they going to be juiced up, ready to go? Like I'm imagining Camp Randall's probably, even though it's 11 o'clock kickoff, we're going to have like primetime vibes for that. What is your confidence that Alabama is going to – what percentage would you put on it, or confidence level that they're going to come in and win?
Well, it's a heck of a lot higher than our chances against Georgia, in my opinion. But at the same time, I know Wisconsin's going to bring their A game. And that home environment, the jump around, it's going to be huge for Wisconsin. And a lot of those naysayers that said, oh, well, the only reason why you had it close to LSU's because LSU's quarterback opted out. Yeah, they're going to hush. That's what I could bet. Because I'm going to take a guess and say for now it's going to be like a 1 touchdown win for Alabama. I see it being like Alabama, Texas, and Austin in 2022. But I would not be surprised if there was a Wisconsin upset if it happened.
I love it.
I like that.
Yeah, I love it, man. And thank you for jumping on the show and kind of provide some perspective, man. Matt Vegrisson says, I like this Bama guy. Man, you are always welcome, Jackson. Let me drop off with you so I can get Brian on the show. But, dude, thank you so much. Appreciate you. And looking forward for the season starting, man. Let's go.
Let's go.
Here we go.
All right, let's get Brian on. He's been sitting for a minute. Brian, man, thank you for dialing in.
Hey. Yeah.
Confidence level for the season. Where are you at here?
Relatively high that we'll be able to play well. Probably like everybody else, not quite as high maybe on what the final record would be given the schedule. Overall, I think we're, expect this to be better in the second year, but, whether we're quite ready to take on the heavyweights on the schedule, it's still kind of in wait and see mode on that.
Well, let me ask both of you guys this with the heavyweights, because this is a question I was going to ask Ryan. What is a successful trip through the heavyweights for Wisconsin this year? So you got USC, Penn State, Bama, and Oregon. 3 of those are at home. What do you need to see from those 4 games at the end of the season? Say, okay, I liked how we went up against those guys, because I don't know if it means you split that. Ryan, we'll kick to you here to start that.
Yeah, you just took a knife right to my spine there when you said that splits probably that was pretty much how I'd measure the success. Do I think it's split? I don't think if you split it, your season's a success, because if you split and then still go 6-6, what did it matter? But also if you go 1-3 and you finish 9-3, I'm not gonna, same token. I think I just need to see continuity. Like, Bama's going to make plays. Oregon's certainly going to make plays.
Mm-hmm.
Vanilla Jeff Sims is going to make a lot of plays for Penn State. At the end of the day, like, You have to sustain drives. Like, we got to keep the chains moving, especially if we're going to run the air raid. I know Coach Anderson and I have talked about this ad nauseum. Like, if you go 3 and out with the run versus the pass, are you really going you're going about the same speed? It's kind of negated at the end. But for success, I want to see drives. I want to see points. If you give up some point, like Mitch says, exactly, no blowouts, keep the game close. Let's not have like 17 punts and wear out Bertram's. So sustain drives. If we split, success, maybe not for the whole season, but just against the heavyweights, I would look at that as a success.
What do you think, Brian?
I think I'm maybe not quite as expecting as much, because I really think after last year, I didn't realize quite how far our talent had dropped under Chris. So I really feel if it's 1-3, if we steal one and we're competitive in the rest, and the overall record is in that 9-win range, then I feel it's a success. That's just how I feel, just because I really think we're a couple of years away, I think, before really being completely, we're back where we want to be. So I think that's a step in the right direction this year.
Yeah, I'm very much right there with you. And we had the comment earlier. I already forgot who made the comment, but no blowouts. I think it was Mitch. Yeah. Mitch had the comment, no blowouts. I think it's maybe a little unfair. This is just my perspective. I could be wrong. And again, we always tell people, fan however you want to fan. This is just my opinion. This doesn't have to be anyone else's opinion. I feel like it's a little unfair to expect a split, even with 3 of the games at home, because you look at a Penn State team where, listen, James Franklin, like him or love him, has been building that culture in his roster for 8 years, however long he's been there. Alabama's been at the top tier of college football for 15 years. Oregon has been a better recruiting machine and a more well-oiled machine than Wisconsin, at least over the last 5-6 years. You got to give Fickle some time to catch up to that, is my point. If Fickle had been here 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I would say, yeah, you got to split it. Now, I think you got to get one of them. I think you have to get one of them. And then in the other ones, I just want us to be competitive. Like, I can't stomach Bama coming in here week 3 and bulldozing us, and it's 34-17, and it feels like we're so far away. So that's where I'm at for the barometer. I want competitive football against those teams to look like we've taken a step up, and I think you got to get one of them.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night, Brian, right now with this Badger team? What scares you?
Well, we already talked about the D line, so I'll go to the other side, offensive line depth. I think there's some talent there, obviously, with some of these young guys who are already, looking to be listed on the 2 deep. But I just feel like, if you have, if you start losing guys there, you talked about that kind of that cascade effect there. I think that could really hurt us on the depth there. So that's probably my biggest thing right now.
Ryan, you think, because again, we've heard this again. I've talked about it. I know everyone talks about it. The depth on the lines, is we making too much out of that, or do you think that is pretty well spoken to at this point?
I'm not as concerned about the depth. I mean, this is coming from a guy that literally saw 1 fall practice, so clearly I know everything. But having watched him, I don't think we're putting enough stock into Coach Blas, because not only is that guy an animal, he is making animals. I'm a decent sized human. I'm 5'10", 235. Kevin Haywood walked by me. I felt like a child.
Yeah.
The kid is 18 years old.
Yeah.
I watched him, when he took some of the first team reps. I mean, it's well documented. When he's taking those first team reps, even those second team reps, when he's taking first team, yes, he's going against some of the backup edge rushers, but we're still talking about like Darrell Peterson, Leon Lowry, Pius, depending on the day. Like, you're still getting ones, whether you're on line 1 or line 2. And he was swallowing up guys. I don't think the fall off is going to be as bad if Haywood has to get in there or Barrett Nelson. Like, I haven't seen enough of Barrett Nelson. I saw in that one practice. But Haywood was doing a lot of right tackle work. I don't think the fall off is going to be that bad. And I think the reason I say that is I don't think they're going to put him in the 2 deep if they weren't ready. I mean, I know at some level you only have so many bodies, right? So you kind of have to. But the name I kind of look at is I look at someone like Caden Proctor. I don't know if Haywood had the same measurables or recruiting pedigree as Caden Proctor, but he started as a true freshman for Alabama in the SEC. So this notion that we have that it's Wisconsin, you have to wait a year. If some guys are just built different, like offensive line or not, they're going to play. Like a lot of true freshmen don't play because they're not used to stunting and lines and gap integrity and all these different things, like the mental part of it, knowing your slide protections, knowing like there's a lot to it. You know, as a offense and defensive line coach for a 6th grade tackle team, let me just tell you, as the trenches coordinator, there's so much information that these guys are just stuck in mud sometimes. And I think that's more of the freshman issue than the body size, because Kevin Haywood is a man already.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think he's going to be an incredible sophomore and junior. And I think he's going to be a serviceable freshman, which is the highest. Yep. You hold up the 3.
He's a 3-year guy.
It's 3 and out, unless we give him like Door County and NIL or something. We just shave off to Wisconsin.
He's going to be probably a 1st-round pick. You're going to get that 5th-year option. You want to get to that 2nd contract. He's 3 and gone, whether he plays 2 or 3.
He's a stud. Brian, where are you calling from, my friend?
Actually, Brian, I'm up at my parents' cabin in Cumberland.
Yes.
Are you upstairs?
No, I'm in Shell Lake.
Ryan's house?
Oh, no, I'm in Shell Lake, but this man is going from the greatest small town in Cumberland. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The Island City, the Cumberland Beavers, Louis Finer Meats, Bonacassa. Sorry, I grew up there. I love Cumberland.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We did Bonacassa last night, and I'm actually I got to get back to the fire by the lake right now. So
no, please do it. I'm going to let you go, man. But thank you so much for dialing in. Always welcome, my friend.
All right. Thanks,
buddy. Oh, that dude just became my favorite guy. Calling in from Cumberland. Are you kidding me?
There you go.
Ryan, question down here. Badger and Bournemouth. Percentage of the season success or failure falls on TBD.
Percentage of success or failure. Well, it's hard because it's the quarterback. So right or wrong, he's going to take the blame. But I would say percentage-wise, I don't know. I would say we're talking about the whole team. I think whatever let me put it this way. I think whatever percentage he shoulders, as long as you're not saying over 50%, then I think Longo has to wear the other percentage. So if it's 25% Tyler's fault, it's going to be 25% Longo's. I think they're much more a pair than we may be giving him credit for. So I don't know. I was a big Morty guy last year. I came on with you a couple times and like talking about, he got happy feet. A lot of times the snaps are getting there so late. He's already late in his reads. I don't think he's going to have that problem with Renfro. We've seen Tyler do it against P4 competition versus Mordecai was doing it against like Bumble F State, like some of those, G5 lower levels. I would say probably 20% of the failure. If we're looking at 20% of the team failure. But it's like someone said earlier, like interceptions keeping him up at night. That's the big thing. I will take 10 touchdowns only. Let's say we're not a high scoring offense. I'll take 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Then I take like 25-15, like one of those 2017 Hornibrook years where it was like 22 touchdowns, 15 picks.
Yeah, 15 or 16 picks. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd take way less touchdown passes for ball security, because the ball's the program. Like you start giving it to the other teams, especially with this schedule, you're going to lose to the Indianas, the Northwesterns, the Iowa. You're going to lose to people you shouldn't if you don't take care of it.
Isn't that the argument for, not to turn this, but isn't that the argument for Drew Aller? Like the fact that he takes care of the ball?
Well, that's because they don't ask him to pass.
It's true. Well, it's short passes. It's little baby passes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aller is a product of a system. Like I always like to call him Vanilla Jeff Sims, because it's like when he's got one read and then run. It's like he doesn't have a ton of it. I mean, Glenn has a point. QB is totally responsible, but I think a lot of it too is like you don't know the variables. So it's like if Tyler Van Dyke throws 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, it's like it's a horrible season. But what if he's on lineman 6, 7, 8 on the depth chart?
Right.
I'm not even going to say a word about Ches because I'm not jinxing anything, but Tywee goes down, or one of the young bucks has a free. I'm not speaking anything. There's so many variables that can impact his production that it'd be hard to put that much on him unless he's literally just throwing it to the other team. I think that's the real nuance. You could just look at it and be like, well, you gave the other team like 8 of those things, like between that and maybe a couple forced fumble, like strip sacks. Like those you can attribute to him. But if he's putting up decent numbers and the offense just isn't going, I think the percentage is going to have to be with Longo too, as much as I like him.
And Bo Dragon's a guy who's not been the biggest Longo fan. He says, I'm not going to lie, I don't like Longo so far. Again,
So
for everyone,
far.
yeah,
Bo
so far.
hasn't liked him since he got hired.
I know. Bo's been salty on him. But listen, again, we don't tell anyone how to fan. I want to just let everybody out there know, again, we're going to do more of these. And I don't know. I mean, Ryan is always certainly welcome. I don't want to try to loop him into this necessarily, but he's always welcome. But we're going to do more of these call-in shows. So, again, if you want to join, I'll put the invite back in there. We haven't done one of these in a while. We did a couple last year. But if you do want to join, just hit that invite, jump on the show. This is just a community thing. We can get everybody in here. Robert Sorensen brings up the 40 burgers.
Hey, don't you worry. They're coming back this year, my brother. They haven't gone anywhere.
If you, Curtis Blaze, 40 burger baby. If you were in the Discord last year or even on some of the chat stuff, Ryan was very high at points in this offense. I want to switch to the defense, Ryan. JP asks, over under 9.5 points for Western Michigan next week against this Badger defense. I'll kick this one. I think it's over. I do think this defense is going to be good, but there are going to be some teething issues still. There's still a lot of new pieces at linebacker. This is not a team that's had this scheme for 3 or 4 years. I think, and it's opening day. Listen, there's going to be a busted coverage. There's going to be something funky that happens. I don't think Western Michigan, it could be like 40-10, 40-13. Like, I don't think it's going to be an overly competitive game, but I will take the over thinking Western Michigan gets a touchdown and a field goal. To me, that's not unrealistic for week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I already was working on my predictions for the game, and that's a beautiful number. I'll take the under.
Love it.
I think that these guys have heard, like, we're in 2024. Like, everybody's on social media. These guys have heard everything you've had to say about them. I think Nick Osen, like, I think it was the show this morning or last night, had said, like, you can hear it in Hunter, how he's saying how disappointed, how much they want to get. Like, these guys, not only do they care, they've heard it all. I think they're going to come out, and this is going to be like, I don't remember if it was, you have to, I'm too old to remember this, but it was like 2018. Was it Western Kentucky? And they came out and just blanked them. And then the next week they went, 2019, they came out and blanked somebody, went to South Florida, and I think blanked them, and then came back and blanked Michigan State. Now, we don't have that talent on defense, but I think this is going to be like my official prediction, spoiler alert, is Badgers 45-6. I think they're going to come out here and just absolutely dog walk these guys.
Dude, let's go. I love it. All right, let's bring Mark in. Let's talk some confidence levels. Mark, man, welcome back to the show.
Oh, my guy, Mark. I like this. Mark, I haven't seen you forever, brother.
I know, it's been a while.
Well, we haven't done one of these shows in a while either, which is why I wanted to bring it back up. But yeah, it has been a minute, Mark. First of all, dude, friend of the show, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah? Life is solid?
Yep.
I love this guy. I miss him.
Confidence level, 0 to 10, where are you at?
About a 7.
Okay. Why aren't you higher? What's holding you back? And 7's pretty confident, but
I may be a minority, but I'm still not a fan of Longo.
Okay. So what do you need? Let me ask you this, and this is going to be a question to Ryan too, and this is a good time to get into it. What do you need to see week 1 to make you feel better about this team?
I would say for whatever reason they didn't use the wide receivers at all, like not very much. I think they need to play more, make more plays for the wide receivers than do the running back this year.
Ryan, how about you? What are you looking for week 1 specifically that is going to make you feel better about the trajectory of the season? Maybe
I would say shot plays. My biggest thing is especially from what, like I said, watching the one practice, but we're all kind of in the loop and we all kind of share information on who is there. I think a lot of it, what gets lost is sometimes you were talking about it the other day, sometimes the defense wins, sometimes the offense wins. Western Michigan doesn't have a Ricardo Hallman, a Hunter Wooler, a John Pius, a Forkerine, Xavier Lucas, Jaheim Thomas running through gaps. I think the boys are going to get shot plays, and what I'm looking for is can we hit on them? I think you had pointed it out multiple times on your show. The plays were there and they just weren't made. And I think with this last 2 weeks, it's close to the media. I could see Tyler Van Dyke being the elder statesman that he is, and these wide receivers so dedicated, Tretch and Pauling and Bryson and CJ, just repping and repping and repping and repping. And when we get to 8:30 under the lights at the Camp Randall, or at the camp, I think these boys are going to put the ball. I just want to see shot plays. Like, I know I have 45-6, but I'm cool with I'll eat it with calling my 40 burgers. If we're like 37-14, as long as we have like 4, 5, 6 plays over 20 yards, just getting those big chunk plays, then that's really what I'm looking for, because you're not going to dink and dunk and try to, you're not doing that on Alabama. You're going to be going backwards. So I need to be able to see it clicking to give me hope for that. Well, I'll have hope anyway against Alabama, whether it's fair or not. But
cool too.
I'll talk my way into like us winning, but that's what I would like to see.
Mark, let me ask you this. We asked this earlier. What do you need to see in those big games? What are you hoping to see in the 4 big ones?
I'm hoping to see more play action. Play action plays. Yeah, and I don't know, maybe just more. I just want to see how Terrified Doug does week 1, and who knows? It could be good, it could be bad. I don't.
No, that's a good one, right? Because if listen, I don't think it'll happen, but if Van Dyke comes out and struggles a little bit or is a little inconsistent week 1 against a team that's not very good, yeah, Badger fans are gonna raise the panic flag a little bit. That's a good one, Mark. I agree.
Hey, Ryan, I think what gets lost though is I think we think about Mordecai and we think that like it wasn't necessarily clicking. Like, we still scored 38 points in the very first game of a system. Like, is that awesome against Buffalo? I mean, Buffalo's respectable. They still had a bunch of Lance Leipold holdovers there that were coached well. Like, Buffalo wasn't some scrub. Now, did we find out at the end that we weren't really built? That kind of was a precursor for what we became. Sure. But it's like, I look at Tyler Van Dyke and it's just like the biggest thing. What was the thing that Miami fans love to hop in the comments and say, what was he bad at?
The ones I get consistently is mistake prone, and then he'll hang his head after mistakes.
Yeah, but where does he make his mistakes? In what coverage? Man coverage or zone coverage?
Zone.
For it was like 4 straight periods where they were going 7-on-7. He was eating the zone alive.
Yeah.
Like, if he can get that right, like he had it with Rhett Lashley his freshman year when people were talking about him as a first-round pick, buddy, if I'm trying to settle down my optimism.
Oh, no, let it go.
If TVD is 85-90% of what he was as a freshman, assuming 0 development, he is going to roast some of the people we play. And that's why I have such high hopes against Western Michigan and South Dakota. Is like, none of those are ACC corners. Like, none of those are Big Ten corners. Like, a lot of those guys are going to really be good at insurance sales when they're done. Like, you got to go out there and just feast.
Hey, Mark, man, where are you calling from? Remind me.
Waukesha.
Okay.
Wisconsin. Yeah.
Listen, I'm gonna let you go because I got 2 other people in the
okay.
queue. But dude, thank you so much for dialing back in, man.
Yeah,
always
no problem.
It's great to see you,
Mark.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys.
See you, Mark.
See ya.
All right, let's get Kevin in here. Kevin, man, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. First time. I've been watching your stuff for a really long time, so it's really cool to finally interact. I pretty much watch every episode, so I'm pretty in tune with what's going on.
That's too much, Ryan, dude. You don't need to watch every one of that, but thank you so much, brother. That's awesome. Hit me up with your optimism level. Where are you at?
Yeah, feeling really good. I also run a Badgers fan page on Facebook too, so I think that's been going since 2015 . So I've been really.
Which one is that? We'll put it in the chat. Which one is that?
It should be. I'm trying to think of what the actual name is. It's Wisconsin Badgers fan page. I think something just like that. It's pretty generic.
Dude, listen really quick, not to interrupt you. When you jump off the video, drop it in the chat and we'll tweet it out. Yeah, for sure, man. All right. Confidence level. What you said, you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, definitely feeling good. Definitely better than last year. I thought last year everyone was a little too excited and had way too high of expectations for this season. I knew that year 1 probably wasn't going to go as well as everybody thought, just because, we had some really high profile transfers. I was like, I just don't think that's just going to happen year 1. Everybody's just going to come in and be ready to go. So, I'm still tempering my expectations for this year just because the schedule is so brutal. But if you just look at the next couple of years, the schedule seems to get a little bit easier in like that 2026, 2027 seasons. Those look a little more promising to win maybe 10, 11 games. But yeah, the next few years, assuming the teams that are actually playing are going to be as good as we think they are, it's going to be really tough to get 8, 9, 10 wins. So I think 8, 9 wins are possible for sure this year. They could probably pull a few upsets, but I don't think that's going to be enough to make the playoffs, which I'm not expecting anyway. I mean, I'm not like going on saying, hey, this is a playoff team and we're potentially going undefeated, making the Big Ten championship. No, I love the Badgers. I'm a huge Badger fan, follow it every day, but my optimism is realistic.
I respect that. Let me ask you this, because this was a question I threw to Ryan, and we'll go around the horn on it. If you do get to that next step, I hear somebody clicking. I don't know who that is. That might be me too. Let's say we exceed that optimism level, right? What player needs to step up? Whose stock is a little too low right now, do you think, in your opinion?
I would, it seems like Ches is kind of falling under the radar a little bit. People just kind of are like, well, he's had some okay seasons and, he's not as great because of all of his injuries. And they just were like, but I'm like, I saw him in the games last year and I was like, whoa, he looks better than Braylon Allen. And he looks like a guy that really fits this offense well. I'm like, he should, potentially be the guy. And then all of a sudden he gets hurt. Braylon comes in and, he's basically the starter for the rest of the year. But I'm like, yeah, like Ches Malusi, I think definitely maybe a little overshadowed just because of Tawi and just because of all the injuries. But I think he's been on the team for like 4 years. He should be kind of ready for this really big breakout season.
Ryan, who for you, whose stock is too low right now?
Well, in true fashion, I don't know if I could choose just one, but I'd like to think it's a position, and I think it's either going to be CJ Williams or Vinnie Anthony, and I think a lot will tell us in game one who's going to get that run. But we talked so much about Tretch on one and Will Pauling on one. I like to call them the slot reapers because they're just going to just eat the middle of the field. But I think there's enough film out there on Bryson Green that if anything, he's going to get any kind of shade coverage or cloud coverage on the side. I think Vinny or CJ is in for a big year. And Kevin was pointed out, like, so many guys came in here and you just expect it to work year one. And it's like, I think even I fell victim to that last year, like seeing TCU the year before go to the playoff and go to the national title with essentially just transfers. And then Colorado started doing it, and then they won 3 games. And I'm sitting here like, what are we doing? Well, I'm a big dumb idiot, and I'm glad I don't do any roster building because clearly that's not how you build teams for the long haul. You're building programs and not teams. But I really think I'm impartial to CJ. I really, really, really like Vinny. But I just think CJ gives you more from like a physicality standpoint. But Vinny is an absolute burner. But I think whoever's lining up opposite Bryson, I think their stock is too low because they're going to get so many one-on-ones that if they can win half of their contested battles and just win on their routes the majority of the time, they are going to eat this year.
I think it's a great point, man. And I think some of those shot plays you talked about are going to come from that spot.
How many did we Skylar Bell, and I don't want to pick on him, how many did Skylar Bell drop or just – like I remember the one when Rajiv was at Purdue and like he's running down and it's like a perfect, a slant fade or a post fade and it's just drifting and it hits the hash mark. It's like, brother, like this is a touchdown. Like the one at Buffalo, touchdown. It's just like, I mean, Sky Bell was a good player while he was here in the Chris system, but if you put CJ or even Vinny running those routes with their physicality and just – we were talking about momentum earlier and just getting extra reps in the bowl game, like in quote meaningless time. I think they really excelled in that, and they looked really good in one-on-ones and in fall camp from all reports.
Yeah, we lost Kevin, but man, thank you for dialing in, man. I didn't get to say thank you and goodbye, but definitely hit me back up and throw that Facebook group in. We got Robert Sorensen, great friend of the show, jumping on too. It's been a minute for him. My man, it has been so long. What is going on, Rob?
Oh man, nothing much. Good to see you guys again. Got my 40 burger guy, Ryan Eilers here, man. So no, had to jump on with you guys. So no,
did you get the spelling bee? We gonna spell some words today?
Oh man, yeah, win, WIN.
I love it.
Dude, you are always most welcome. Matchy, Vinny for deep balls, CJ in traffic.
Yeah.
I actually think Vinny is the guy who augments Tyler Van Dyke the best because he gives you that verticality. He gives you that vertical threat, whereas Bryson's more underneath, more physical. I think if you have Vinny kind of pulling a safety a little deeper, that matches what Van Dyke needs to do. And I think if you have CJ and Bryson on opposite sides, they're a little repetitive. Not that they're not both going to play. I think there's a role for all these guys, but I think Vinny gives you that vertical threat a little bit more.
Well, think about this, and Bobo, I want to hear your ideas too. This is what I call demon mode, right? So I can't say everything that I saw in the one practice that I was there, but I saw a lot of this kind of maturating in spring. What is a defense going to do when Longo inevitably goes empty, and you have Bryson, Vinny, and CJ on one side, or you just flop one of those guys the other side, and you put Tretch or Will on opposite sides? Who is getting the fifth corner? And then how fast are they when they're chasing tail lights?
Well, and really quick, you do that and you throw Dupree in the backfield or a Chaz in the backfield or a Tyree in the back. Like, pick your poison there, right?
Bingo.
You have a loaded set of tools there. Robert, what do you think? I want to start the same one we've always asked. Confidence level.
Confidence level's got to be at around a 7, 8. So.
Okay. What's keeping you from going higher?
I think a little bit of the defense. Like I would say the offense, but the defense, I was going to call it and be like, I really want to see something from the offense. But like last year, it was Hunter Wohler or bust on that defense, and they brought in some dogs, but I got to see it too. So the Mike Mascalunas and the Leo Chanel, the death row. That's what I want to see. I need to see that type of mentality. They're talking about being the hunters, not the hunted. So that's what I want to see on defense.
Brother, wait until you see Jaheim Thomas. You can thank us later.
Yeah, the dude is a beast. Let me ask you this, though, Ryan, because I have in my head thought about this, and obviously, Rob, I want your take on this, too. We just got done talking about how we got over our skis a little bit with the receivers last year, right? Transfer talent, 4-star this guy, got the kid from Oklahoma State, and it took maybe a year for that to click. Any potential concern you have figuring out how these linebackers are going to click this year?
No.
Okay.
Because here's the thing is see ball, get ball, see ball, tackle ball. Like as simple as it is, defense is all about running and hitting. You're chasing. Like in offense, you're worried about scheme and depth and route and integrity and all these different things. I'm not worried about the defensive guys because like Pius has shown for years he can do it. Albeit at a lower level, sure. Lowry, still in the ACC, showed he could do it over multiple years. Jaheim Thomas knows exactly what Fickle and Trussell want out of their defense from being from Cincinnati. Coming from Arkansas, playing in the SEC. Is that good football? You tell me. Almost, 100 tackles in the SEC? Sacked Jalen Milroe. Like, he's aware of the speed that guy has. And even Alien Space saying Tackett Curtis, like, yeah, that's your second wave, brother. Like, you're getting Allegro and Tackett and Jancy. Like, when those guys have to get spelled, we're not going to some of the guys that we might have had to go to last year. And I think someone had pointed out earlier when they were talking about the guys were just stuck in mud. That kind of gets back to my point when I was talking about why young offensive linemen struggle too, is there's so much information overload. It's like you could see it last year. I guarantee – well, I shouldn't guarantee anything because I'm not a coach. I am very confident that Jordan Turner would look so much better in this offense if he had time to learn all the intricacies. Because we were saying the same thing about Jake Cheney last year as we were at Jordan Turner. Oh, he's running slow. Is this guy even athletic? Jake Cheney might be one of the most athletic linebackers on the roster, but when you're sitting here stuck in here and not firing out and hitting somebody, like Jake looks like one of the best linebackers on the team, and that's including Jaheim Thomas. So it's like these boys, I think, year 2 of any system, oh, you guys got me juiced up already. I'm starting ready to run through a wall for myself. But I can't wait to watch this linebacker grow. I don't think there's going to be a drop-off because Jaheim knows what they want. The other guys are older. Everyone's been in the system for year 2. Allegro, Cheney, Daryl Peterson have been getting rave reviews. They're not doing that if that guy's not going to play. Good point. Muma, like, he was stuck in, like.
He did run a 4.9, though. He did.
I don't understand how
he thumps.
Like, I don't understand how he's balling out in the preseason. I love it, by the way. Nothing makes me happy than seeing dudes succeed. he was just legitimately slow last year, though, and that wasn't all mental, right? Like it's not like
what did our buddy run,
and go to the NFL?
What Jack Sanborn run? I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, it's a great question.
He didn't run great, and he's starting linebacker for the Bears.
4.7, 5.48. But Muma, I don't know. But that's not a 4.9 or like I don't know.
Muma could be on teams like they're going to find you keep leading the NFL and like win rate in preseason, you're going to be on a roster.
I'll say this too, as the resident, even going back to last year, the resident inhabitant of Jake Cheney Island, I have been I feel so validated in the fact that he looks lean and mean. People who haven't seen practice are going to be surprised by what they see with Cheney. They're gonna think it's a transfer guy. They're gonna be like, who's wearing number 1 and where did we get him?
He runs so hard in every drill. I think I put this out on Twitter. He runs every drill like it's the last drill he's ever gonna do. And we had interviewed him after practice that day. And I don't know if you can go to my Twitter, you can search it. He was talking about, or I guess anybody that was there for that part, it doesn't have to be mine, but he was talking about that they look at that class, that like 21 class, and he even made the comment like, are we the downfall of the program? Like, you're telling me that chip is not the biggest chip on his shoulder you've ever seen because he feels like he let down an entire fan base? Like, that weighs on guys. That has pushed him. He got a new number. Like, he is an animal.
Hey, Rob, talk to me about who do you think on this team's undervalued? Some of the questions we've had to other people. Who are you really, really excited to see this year?
I mean, I'm gonna say he's already been mentioned, but Vinnie Anthony. I mean, he always comes up with the big plays. I've been talking about him since last year. It's like he's just kind of unsung, but like he'll make the big plays where it's like, Skylar Bell is supposed to be this top guy. He'd drop it, but like Vinnie Anthony would come up with big catches. So I like him. I mean, let's see. I mean, Ben Barton, obviously he's been getting more talk, but I don't know, maybe that's just because I'm in the weeds. So, it's hard for me to find an unsung guy because I know all the guys.
Well, I think your Barton one is actually really good. Like, that's a guy who does have the size to hold up on the inside. He's been in the program for a long time, who's just been a grinder. And if you get from him first and second down, like hold up and get us to pass rushing situations, right? Yeah. I think we can do that. And quite frankly, I know we're all kind of in the weeds. We're all kind of psychos with this stuff, but I don't think a lot of Badger fans fully know that name, and he's going to be an integral part of this defense. So I think it's a great one, actually.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for them to switch an offensive lineman, potentially to defensive lineman. I actually thought it was going to be Barrett Nelson, but just because he played there in high school.
The old Caden Lyles move, huh?
Yeah, that didn't work out great. All right, my friend. I'm going to let you go. Again, dude, you are always most welcome. Friend of the show, Robert Sorensen, joining us. Made my night.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, brother. All right, I got a couple quick questions for you, man. And we're already at 47 minutes. Like, you and I could talk about this we could do hours, but we're going to keep this around an hour because I want to be gracious with your time. Kedrick says, if you think Maggie Skinnell is going to score 20 goals as a true freshman. I don't know what show Kedrick thinks he's dialing into here.
Well, that dude is just a walking cascade of failures, so I'm not entirely sure. Of course.
Absolutely.
Maggie's a dog. What are you talking about?
Yes, absolutely. Let me get to a couple of these other questions and thoughts I had for you. This one was from our resident Husker fan who dialed in. Huskers are going to spank y'all from Thueza. How many years in a row has Nebraska won the offseason? Like, is this going to be the year it translates? How scared of you are Nebraska this year?
Well, I would ask old buddy how many times that they've held the Freedom Trophy since it's been created. 0, actually. So, but I think my worry meter grows by the year. So I'll give Nebraska credit. Maybe this isn't going to sit well with my Badger brethren and sisterin, our family. Matt Rule is a really good coach. Mm-hmm. He's not an NFL dude, but he, like, everywhere he goes, Temple, Baylor, and he's got resources. Maybe not this year. Wisconsin could still lose to them. I mean, we lost to Indiana last year, so everything's on the table. Year 2, 3, 4. Well, depends on how Raiola pans. Like, it's a quarterback league. Like, it's a quarterback sport, really. But after you get through this redshirt or this true freshman season of Raiola, Nebraska's. I'm not excited to play them on a yearly basis. So Not this year. I'm not. My afraid meter isn't that high this year, but going forward, it grows with the years.
Yeah, I'll say this one with Nebraska. I think they get us in a decent spot later in the year, right? So they have an early season stretch of games that are pretty terrible. They don't have a tough schedule. So you have a true freshman quarterback that does have athletic tools, and now you give them a bit of a runway to ramp up. I would feel better about it getting them early. I think Nebraska's a tough team going forward. I straight up think, to every point you made, I think Rule's a real coach. He'll rebuild the trenches, and they really do have resources. They have real NIL stuff they can play with. Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be easy, but this isn't the year y'all going to spank us. You can stop with that nonsense.
I mean, if they didn't get us last year, I mean, when Braylon's out there on half a leg, and you got Brock Purdy's little brother streaking down the middle of the field for 80 yards. If you're not going to get us then, I don't know that you're going to get us this year, even though it's in Nebraska.
Give me a quick ceiling floor for you, and that's relative. Everyone defines this a little differently. This is from Con. Ceiling is 7 wins. 7 wins. Floor is 5. D-line going to get pushed around, exhausted all year. Wisconsin can't compete with the big boys still until they start recruiting D-line at a high level. We talked about D-line quite a bit already. I don't know if we need to retouch that. We both are certainly. You think that's a little overblown. I also think it's a little overblown. Ceiling 7 wins. Floor 5.
Yeah, I mean, I knew a hater's voice when I heard one. I think floor, obviously as I watch your show all the time, I always kind of agree a lot with Nick Osen. Like, he and I are kind of two kindred spirits. So we define ceiling the same way. In order to answer that question, to go back to last year, I had just put it on Twitter when I was walking back from the Good Neighbor Festival, and I was just, firing off all these hot takes. We were a couple bad blown plays away from being 11-1 last year. Like, without health. Like, we had a backup quarterback, Braylon Allen on one leg. We were only trailing number 3 Ohio State, 17-10, and Braylon Allen had like 45 yards, 50 yards, and 2 fumbles. Is it the same Ohio State? No. But I think if we kind of say, hey, if that ball rolls for us and we get those, now obviously it's all about luck. You're only going to get about half of them. But let's say you just Lady Luck strikes for you and you're 11-1. Are you feeling a lot different this year? Because you just are a few plays away from being that. You're not too far, you're not too many plays away, or you're a lot of plays away from being like 5-7 or whatever the Gophers end up being every year. So I think for me, looking at 11-1 could have been last year if we had a kicker at Indiana, Vakos wasn't hurt, and Tanner didn't break his hand, and JB, obviously my brother, I love that guy so much. But yes, obviously that's the ceiling, the floor. But I think the floor, that I agree with the cons up there that you put. I think the floor is 5, just because you're going to get 2 gimmies off the bat. If you struggle with those, every game's going to be up for grabs. But I'd like to think that you can at least go 1-9 down the stretch, or 3-6 down the stretch. But my ceiling is at 11. So I'm right there with Nick Osen on 11. If everything hits right. Now, obviously, you have those 4 games we talked about splitting, but I'm thinking much like if you just rinse and repeat everything Nick said, that's kind of how I fall. I think they're going to get 2 of them. I think the benefit of 3 of them are at home. I think Oregon is too far away. We're not catching them in year 2. We don't have the dogs on anywhere to stay with them. I'd just keep it close. Don't get embarrassed. Penn State has been a fraud. They're always a fraud every single year. You can recruit whoever you want. You can have old buddy from Catholic Memorial in Waukesha that we didn't even offer, Dominic, what's his face, and Corey White. You can have those dudes. Go ahead. Love you, Nolan Rucci. But at the end of the day, Penn State is Penn State. They're a fraud. We should have beat them with Graham Mertz when we lost 16-10. Sorry, I'm on a tangent.
No, this is great. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm just giving ricochets. I'm just giving it to everybody. I haven't been on here in a while, so I'm just trying to fire off on them. But I think you're gonna get to 8-9 wins. I'm kind of I think you said the other day you were 8-4. Nick's 9-3. I'm kind of right there at the 9-3 because I think you are gonna split. I have no faith in USC. Okay, Miller Moss decided he was gonna have a game. We're Wisconsin fans. Oh, we're Wisconsin fans. You're a 49ers. I'm a Cardinals. But anybody that watches the show is a Packer fan. How did Matt Flynn look after 6 tuds against the Lions? Everybody can have a game. Let's see Miller Moss over a season, right? So I don't have any faith in them. I think we get someone had posted, I think it might have been Big Ten Ted had posted something on Twitter. Like you got the triangle that you needed. You got Bama early, new coach the year after Saban, and it's at home. So it's like, if you're going to ever beat Alabama, this would be the chance. So I think the ceiling is 11. The floor is 5, but I see them coming in at 9-3, 10-2 if they can split and then get some of those tricky ones like the Nebraskas and at Rutgers, which I had a lot more nerves about until old buddy Mohamed Toure tore his ACL. Great player. Like, he was a thorn, but I think that's going to – you talked about one player earlier. You were talking about JTJ, losing him. And he's certainly a great player for us, but it's more of a depth issue for us. You lose Mohamed Toure, like, Rutgers' season's pretty much done.
Yeah, that's brutal for him, man. That really stinks. Let me hit some of these here. JP says floor 6, ceiling 10. Forrest, floor 6, ceiling 10. Bo Dragon says, Michael Jordan says the ceiling is the roof.
I knew somebody was going to hit that one.
Slim Lewis, floor 5, ceiling 9. Badgerville, floor 5, ceiling 7. A little lower on this.
Bill, you're killing me, brother.
So I'll like be a little more concise probably than I said with Nick. But again, I think my struggle with ceiling is, if everything goes perfectly, can you get to 11? But I don't think realistically everything can ever go perfectly, right? And when I look at the schedule, I just can't see any realistic scenario where we win 3 out of 4 against those big teams and then we sweep everybody else. Like, how many seasons in a row haven't we swept everybody else now, right? And I'm trying to be optimistic with it, but I just don't think we're at the point with the depth on the lines, relying on TVD, which is still a bit of a question mark. And I actually agree with you. I'm higher on him than I think a lot of people are. I think the national media is kind of judging us, and this is something Curtis has said as well, through the lens of TVD, without fully taking into the context that a lot of those interceptions were when he was hurt. He's had kind of a crap offensive coordinator situation year after year after year. Like, I think we're going to see the best version of TVD potentially, and that's going to be really good, but it's still not a great quarterback. Like, against a great schedule potentially, right? And we don't know fully what all these teams are going to end up being, but against a great schedule potentially, you almost need a great quarterback to go 11-1. And I don't know if I'm there with TVD. And I think the only other way you do it is if you have like a prime Georgia defense. Like back when Alabama, back when Alabama and LSU were playing for the national title and the first team to 14-1.
Well, that 9-6 when somebody won 9-6 the national title.
Yeah, like I think you need that defense or a great quarterback to go 11-1 against the schedule, and I don't think we have either. So I think it's ceiling 10, floor 5-ish, and I would be ecstatic with 10. Right, I would be over the moon, drinking varsity ale, streaking down Cumberland Main Street to the like. It would be amazing, but I think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, everything perfect, of course. Like JB said, the ceiling would be 12 then. And like I said, I don't think we'll hit 11 either. But I think if you split with the big guys and you lose one that you probably shouldn't, but Wisconsin always has that. I mean, we're not going to Ryan Field anymore, which is good for now. We're going to some, second grade preschool JV field to play on. So that looks exciting, which, spoiler alert, tickets are still like $300. Must be because like 12 people can get in. But we always have one of those games. So it's like, if you split against the big guys and then you just drop one, you shouldn't. Like, I think 9-3 is really doable, especially if I had to like reveal it, I think they do as much Kool-Aid as I'll drink. I think they lose to Alabama and Oregon as much as I don't want to admit it. I think, like, objectively, they probably lose those games. I'll convince myself game week that we are going to win, which, obviously. But I think USC is going to have a rude awakening because they had Caleb Williams and couldn't beat Utah. And if you look at Utah, they are literally Iowa. And it's like Wisconsin, everybody struggles with Iowa, but Wisconsin beat Iowa like 4 or 5 out of 6 before this last streak. And it's like, that's when they had NFL dudes like Van Ness and Cooper DeJean and Jack Campbell and Torrey Taylor. Like, Iowa was stacked and Wisconsin, not the last few years, but Wisconsin was still winning those games. So it's like, if Wisconsin can get back to somewhat decent, like top 20 defense, and Tyler Van Dyke is 85% of what we're hoping him up to be, I don't see why they can't win at the Coliseum.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Kedrick says contemplating 11 wins is asking to OD on hopium. The Vegas win total is 6.5. Brah.
We should have pointed out when Bobo was on here, Robert Sorensen. I like to call him Bobo because that's my boy. But he always told me that I have the lottery mentality because I called a 40 burger. And then at some point I just kept saying 40 burger because I knew it was going to hit eventually. And it never did all season.
You kept
that
stacking.
I'm riding it until it doesn't. It's going to be 40 burger against Alabama if we still haven't got one. We're going with that until we get one.
Dude, I absolutely love it. All right, we're at an hour, man. I don't want to keep you any longer, but any last thought? Oh no, start here. What do you got going on? I had a question earlier in the chat about Badger Notes. You got a show tomorrow. Throw your work out there.
Yeah, so we're still at Badger Notes, but we are growing. So we got picked up also to write for Athlon, which is a much wider audience than we were able to get here locally. So we are a national and maybe international product. You have to ask Kedrick. He's got some brains on that. He knows probably better than I do. But yeah, we are launching our new show. So we had Badger Notes After Dark last year. It did well. The boss man, the CEO, Dylan, has been doing a lot of legwork behind the scenes, and Athlon wants to publish a show for us. So we are going to do Talking Badgers. It's going to probably be a weekly episode. We launch on Tuesday. We're giving away 2 tickets to the home game against Western Michigan, so we can all see a 40 burger together. So just that, and then wrestling, covering that, and the Badgers football team for Athlon and Badger Notes. So
love it. Go check out their show tomorrow. Obviously, follow Ryan. We got his Twitter account right here. Ryan, thank you so much, brother. As always, you are most welcome. Any last thought here as we wrap this up?
I think the pendulum has swung too far. Like, we were really, really high on it. And now I mean, and I'm not saying anything that nobody hasn't said before, but then it's swung so far back, and much like things are in life, it's somewhere in the middle. And I feel like as much as we're like, splitting against the big guy, and I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying in general, like a lot of people are, we're not going to split. We're not going to do that. Like, this is a still really good roster. Like the transfers that they brought in are going to be impact. Like we look at a lot of the transfers last year, like didn't end up leaving. If they were these, I mean, Nick Evers left. But it's like this isn't like a Colorado where people come in, they didn't get the playing time, and then they're out. Like those guys got a year in the strength and conditioning, they got multiple years of eligibility. They stuck it out. They want to be a part of a program and a team. I just don't want us to go in. I guess my lasting thing was, let's not go into the season super, super hopium like me because I'm just a crazy person. But you also don't have to go in with, TVD, he kind of stunk it up at Miami. This is Mordecai 2.0. It's like I trying to channel my inner Rajiv on this one. It's like I'm gonna believe it until I don't see it, and I know I was guilty of it last year. But I think Bama plays Georgia after Wisconsin. Hey, that's what I'm saying. Hey, that's my guy. I was like reading the name. I was like,
no, Eric's a good dude.
I like that dude a lot too. But he knows what the boys look like. And I just don't want it to swing so far where we kind of lose faith in the guys because, like I said, last year we're a few plays away from being 11-1. Like you can look back, and every team can do this, where they look back and say coulda, woulda, shoulda. But in year one, seeing what we saw, just hearing Coach Fickle and a lot of these guys talk about, like I said earlier, Jake Cheney saying, like, am I the downfall of this program? Is it our class? There's so much disappointment and fuel inside that room that it's like we can't swing all the way back here because these guys are going to come out like gangbusters, and I think they're going to be looking to prove a point. Is it going to be us 11-1? Probably not. Is it going to be 9-3? Maybe. But we also can't just be like, they're just going to lose every game, because then you're not going to enjoy the journey. And then we get to 8-4 and you're just like, oh wow, we split, and it's like you didn't enjoy the process all the way. So I think my lasting thing is like, let's enjoy the ride. It's year 2. I think Coach Fickle is really building a great program with great guys, great talent. The floor is being raised. We just got to stay the course.
Yeah, that's a great one to wrap up on. And it's a similar point that I made. I think people have swung too far. Like it's almost like people are afraid to get excited. And bro, it's the Badgers are here. Like, get freaking excited. I got over my skis last year. That's a new term I've been using too much. I'm gonna think of another one, but
welcome back to Wisconsin.
Thank you. Yeah, like I am so excited for this year. And what happened last year, does not determine what happens this year. Like, if you want to be excited, don't let last year damper it. If you want to be pessimistic, and we got Bo in the chat, like, that's cool. That's 100% cool too. But don't base it on last year, would be my takeaway. And I'm right there with you on that. He is Ryan Eilers, Badger Notes, Athlon, a podcast coming up. That's tomorrow. Go check that out. Thank you so much, my friend. For everybody in the chat, thank you so much as always. For everyone that dialed in, thank you so much. We'll do more of these shows where people can dial in. It's a lot of fun to get the community involved. On Wisconsin, 1 week away. Let's go.